Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Directors meeting for August 1st, 2017. I'd like to welcome everybody that's here in City Hall with us tonight as we do the city's business. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read the roll.
Director Hendricks, Director Richardson, Director Peck, here. Director Hines, Director Wright, here. Director Wyrick, here. Director Compuris, Director Fortson, here. Director Adcock, Vice Mayor Webb, here. Mayor Stodler.
Here. Let me call on City Director Cappy Peck for our invocation, please.
As we gather today to make decisions for our community, may we all focus on the issues that bind us together, our love for our city. We meet to serve Little Rock, to use our resources wisely, to represent all members of our community fairly, and to make decisions for the common good. Let us be open to others' ideas and beliefs and respectful of our differences. Help us be patient and kind, and let us work together to find common ground. We support our police, our firefighters, and other first responders. Watch over them all and all others who serve our community. May we move forward with a shared vision to see what is truly important and unites us all, a safer and better city where everyone is treated with respect. Teach and mentor our children, care for our elderly, and show compassion to all, especially those less fortunate. Thank you.
If you would, please join and me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we can move directly to our consent agenda this evening. We don't have any presentations for a change. So if you would, Madam Clerk, if you would read the consent agenda, please.
The consent agenda consists of a resolution to authorize the city manager to execute a contract with CareLink at an amount not to exceed $55,785 utilizing the 2017 Community Development Block Grant Funds to provide Meals on Wheels to eligible participants and for other purposes. A resolution to authorize the mayor to execute a contract with CHI St. Vincent Medical Group in an amount not to exceed $152,509 utilizing the 2017 Community Development Block Grant Funds to provide healthcare services for low-income citizens and for other purposes. A resolution to approve the amended sources and uses of the fund provided in the 2017 CDBG Home and HOPA funds from the U.S. government and for other purposes. A resolution to amend Little Rock, Arkansas Resolution number 14,566 of May 16, 2017 to include Lofton Security Services Incorporated to provide security services for the Little Rock District Courts building, to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Lofton Security Services Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $47,960 and for other purposes. A resolution to appoint Stevens Incorporated as bond underwriter for the proposed issuance of capital improvement bonds to refund the city's outstanding capital improvement construction revenue bonds, Zoo, Parks, and Recreation Projects, Series 2009A, Capital Improvements Refunding Revenue Bonds, the Zoo, Parks, and Recreation Projects, Series 2009B, and Capital Improvement Junior Lien Revenue Bonds, Series 2012, and for other purposes. A resolution to authorize the city manager to execute an extension to the prior agreement for the renovations of the historic Over the Jumps Carousel in an amount not to exceed $75,000 for the total project cost to utilize Arkansas Historic Preservation Grant Funds and for other purposes. A resolution to authorize the city manager to apply for an Arkansas Department of Parks and Tourism Outdoor Recreation Grant to renovate the Civitan Amphitheater at the Little Rock Zoo and for other purposes. A resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Oakley Fertilizer Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $300,000 for the purchase of rock salt in bulk for the Public Works Operations Division and for other purposes. A resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into agreement with Center for Youth and Families in an amount of $150,000 to provide community-based intervention services and for other purposes. That concludes the consent agenda.
There's a motion and a second to adopt the consent agenda. We have Before I call for a vote, Director Richardson, do you have a question or a comment?
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Bruce, on resolution number 9, I think I had a couple of questions last week about this issue. A couple more questions this week. Do we have an applicant here tonight? Follow-up questions. This may be the applicant, it may be staff. How will the youth workers would be identified and who would train them? Are we talking about street-based workers? We're not talking about community-based, just site-based workers. We're talking about street-based workers, right? So how will they be trained and who would do the training for them?
If I could, board, mayor, vice mayor, and the board, and Bruce, we do have the vendor here. From that, we have had that discussion, and we also plan to have further discussions. So if you'd like to come up, Jonathan, and make comments, if that's all right.
Thank you.
Wait just a second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just a second, please.
Sure.
I want to
Carpenter.
suggest to the board that there's a problem here. You've got a process by which somebody has been selected. And you've got a staff, 2 of which you hire, that says that the selection process was correct. You're free to vote up or down on the resolution. That's not a problem. But to question how somebody is going to do something when your staff has already said that the way it's going to be done meets our expectations is inappropriate. I mean, y'all have got a process. It's a competitive process to move forward with. So to challenge the vendor as to whether the process is good, it's bad, I agree with it, I disagree with it, it's the best, it's the worst, it's the mooch, if you want to do that this week, any of those things are really inappropriate. Your challenge needs to be to your manager, to your department head, to your legal counsel as to whether the process was followed correctly.
So, thank you, Tom. Bruce, with respect to that point Tom you just made, and questions that we may have had last week that weren't successfully answered or sufficiently answered, how do we address those questions, which I think may be important for me before I vote up or down?
Well, Director Richardson, this is just authorizing me to enter into contract negotiations, basically. They've submitted a proposal. We've also have visited extensively with the vendor. They understand our expectations, and I'm recommending approval to allow me to move forward to enter into a contract.
So with respect to these questions, because it's really critical work, I think that we're trying to identify with respect to some of the violence in our community, and public safety is a real key issue with us right now. You're saying that any of these questions are moot, that can't answer any of these questions? Tom or Bruce, not my colleagues, please.
I'm not saying your questions are moot, I'm saying your audience is the city manager.
Okay, withdraw it, Mayor.
Director Richardson, or
Just withdraw it. I'll figure out ways. We'll figure out a way to.
Director Hendricks, you're recognized.
No,
You don't wish to speak?
no, my light's not on now.
Okay.
No, no.
All right. Very good. All right. That is the reading of the resolutions. All in favor of the passage of the resolutions indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
The resolutions, are you voting nay on all of them, Director Richardson, or just item 9?
Item 9.
Okay. Let the record reflect a vote on item 9. And the resolutions have passed. The next item on our agenda is citizen communication, and I have a card from Deborah Clark.
Hello, I am Deborah Clark, a volunteer, one of over 50 that volunteer at KWCP Low Power FM radio station, which is housed in the West Central Community Center on John Barrow. And
Go ahead, please.
I'm confused, I'm sorry, on John Barrow and Canis. I came here today because our station manager has been terminated abruptly, which left us.
Mayor, this is personnel issue that I've just been made aware of today, and I need to address it from a personnel issue.
Well, I'm speaking on behalf of me as a volunteer, how I felt by it happening, meaning that my hours of volunteering and others seem to have gone unnoticed and appreciated. That's my reason for speaking.
Well,
I'm
go
not
ahead,
speaking
go
about-
ahead.
Okay.
We'll refer this obviously for a personnel matter if that's the case, but go ahead with your comments, please, Deborah.
Okay.
The Mayor, the comments need to relate upon her volunteering, not upon the decision.
Yes, sir.
Very
Yes, sir,
good.
it does.
We understand somebody got terminated and you're upset about it as a volunteer.
I'm just saying that my shows that I was on, that I co-hosted, are no longer being aired, and the station itself has changed. It is a community-oriented student radio station. That's how the license was obtained, and that's the programming that we, in my shows, afforded the radio station. And now all that is gone away just by decision of others. And so I just wanted the board to know, and the city manager and everybody to know, that it really hurt to say that our volunteer hours went unnoted or thought about.
All right, well, thank you, Ms. Clark. And Mr. Moore, it appears that above and beyond the issue of an employee personnel issue, there's other issues relative to this radio station that need to be looked at and delved into relative to operations and control and oversight. So if you would give us an in-depth analysis of that, I've got a multi-page document here that tries to outline some of those issues.
Again, I was made aware of it when you all were this morning.
Okay.
Well, she mentioned volunteer. Are there any city funding, going to operate this or support the operation of it? She may mention or reference to volunteering. I just want to know if there are city funds attached to this program.
There are.
Mayor, may I address?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Mr. Carpenter said no.
It's probably wise. Okay, we can move on to the, excuse me, the next items. Our grouped items. I'd like to separate out items 10 and 11. There have been questions raised about those two. So, Madam Clerk, if you would read first ordinances 12 through 16, I believe that's right. Yes, please, 12 through 16.
An ordinance to authorize the city manager to dispense with the requirement of competitive bids for the purchase of 31 less-than-lethal electronic control devices from Axon in an amount not to exceed $79,080.76 for the Little Rock Police Department, to declare an emergency and for the purposes. An ordinance to authorize the city manager to dispense with the requirement of competitive process and enter into a contract with APCO International in an amount not to exceed $56,940 to assist in the development of a request for proposals for the replacement of the existing computer-aided dispatch system for the Little Rock Police Department and for the purposes, to declare an emergency and for the purposes. An ordinance to authorize the city manager to dispense with the requirement of competitive bids and enter into agreement with Motorola Solutions in an amount not to exceed $936,724.20 for a mock alert fire station alerting system for the Little Rock Fire Department and for the purposes. An ordinance to amend Little Rock, Arkansas Ordinance Number 21,444 of July 5th, 2017 to allow the city manager to enter into a contract with Baptist Health, Occupational Health, in an amount not to exceed $125,000 to provide pre-employment screenings, random drug or alcohol testing, and post-accident drug or alcohol testing, and for the purposes. An ordinance to grant a franchise for the use of city right-of-way for the placement of restaurant tables and other items for the exclusive use of Threefold Noodles and Dumpling Company, located at 611 Main Street, to require the creation of a passageway consistent with the Americans with Disabilities Act and acceptable to the city as part of this franchise agreement, to set the other terms and conditions of this franchise for the franchisee and the adjacent property owner, and for the purposes. First reading.
There's a motion and a second to suspend the rules and place these ordinances on second reading. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Second reading, please.
An ordinance to authorize the city manager to dispense with the requirement of competitive bids for the purchase of 31 less-than-lethal electronic control devices from Axon in an amount not to exceed $79,080.76 for the Little Rock Police Department, to declare an emergency. An ordinance to authorize the city manager to dispense with the requirement of competitive process and enter into a contract with ABCO International in an amount not to exceed $56,940 to assist in the development of a request for proposals for the replacement of the existing computer-aided dispatch system for the Little Rock Police Department to declare an emergency. An ordinance to authorize the city manager to dispense with the requirement of competitive bids and enter into agreement with Motorola Solutions in amount not to exceed $936,724.20 for a mock alert fire station alerting system for the Little Rock Fire Department. An ordinance to amend Little Rock, Arkansas ordinance number 21,444 to allow the city manager to enter into a contract with Baptist Health Occupational Health in an amount not to exceed $125,000 to provide pre-employment screenings, random drug or alcohol testing, and post-accident drug or alcohol testing. An ordinance to grant a franchise for the use of city right-of-way for the placement of restaurant tables and other items for the exclusive use of Threefold Noodles and Dumpling Company located at 611 Main Street to require the creation of passageway consistent with American with Disabilities Act and acceptable to the city as part of this franchise agreement, to set the other terms and conditions of this franchise for the franchisee and the adjacent property owner. Second reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on third and final reading.
There's a motion, and is there a second?
Second. I'm sorry.
To suspend the rules and place these ordinances on third and final reading. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. Third and final reading, please.
An ordinance to authorize the city manager to dispense with the requirement of competitive bids for the purchase of 31 less-than-lethal electronic control devices from Axon in an amount not to exceed $79,080.76 for the Little Rock Police Department to declare an emergency. An ordinance to authorize the city manager to dispense with the requirement of competitive process and enter into a contract with ABCO International in an amount not to exceed $56,940 to assist in the development of a request for proposals for the replacement of the existing computer-aided dispatch system for the Little Rock Police Department to declare an emergency. An ordinance to authorize the city manager to dispense with the requirement of competitive bids and enter into agreement with Motorola Solutions in amount not to exceed $936,724.20 for a mock alert fire station alerting system for the Little Rock Fire Department. An ordinance to amend Little Rock, Arkansas ordinance number 21,444 to allow the city manager to enter into a contract with Baptist Health Occupational Health in an amount not to exceed $125,000 to provide pre-employment screenings, random drug or alcohol testing, and post-accident drug or alcohol testing. An ordinance to grant a franchise for the use of city right-of-way for the placement of restaurant tables and other items for exclusive use of Threefold Noodles and Dumpling Company located at 611 Main Street to require the creation of a passageway consistent with the American with Disabilities Act and acceptable to the city as part of this franchise agreement, to set the other terms and conditions of this franchise for the franchisee and the adjacent property owner. Third and final reading.
Okay, are there any questions? If not, hearing none, all in favor of the passage of these ordinances indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. The ordinances are approved. And on the emergency clause on ordinance number 12, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. The emergency clause on item 12 is approved. And on the emergency clause on item 13, all in favor of the emergency clause indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. That emergency clause is also approved. We can now move on to first reading of ordinance number 10 and 11. Since they're related, we'll do those two collectively.
An ordinance to amend the land use plan in two areas between Granite Mountain, College Station, and Sweet Home from residential low density and industrial to park, open space, and mining, and for other purposes. An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes. First reading.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to suspend the rules and place these two ordinances on second reading. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Second reading, please.
An ordinance to amend the land use plan in two areas between Granite Mountain, College Station, and Sweet Home from residential low density and industrial to park, open space, and mining. An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. Second reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on third and final reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Second reading, please.
An ordinance to amend the land use plan in two areas between Granite Mountain, College Station, and Sweet Home from residential low density and industrial to park, open space, and mining. An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. Third and final reading.
Okay, we've had 3 readings of the ordinances, and I've got some cards on this matter. Let me first of all call on Jordan Johnson. Let me mention as a preface that ordinance number 10 is an amendment to the land use plan, and ordinance number 11 is to reclassify then the property from a zoning standpoint. And just so everybody knows, item 17 is also related, which abandons some rights-of-way and plats within the particular property in question.
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, I'd like to defer to Meg Johnston, the attorney representing the client, on initial questions, and I can be happy to support and
All right,
follow up.
thank you. Ms. Johnson?
Hello, Mayor Stola and board members. My name is Meg Johnston. My firm, Mitchell Williams, represents 3M's Little Rock facility. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak here tonight. 3M is requesting approval of 3 related applications. The ultimate goal of these applications is to enable 3M to bring the zoning of these properties in line with the adjacent zoning of other 3M property and the continued use of the area as buffer zone for 3M operations. 3M is not expanding its operations. There's no change in its operations. The 3M plant is currently zoned mining because it has a mine permit. It doesn't blast at its plant, but it does crush rock from its quarry. So it is a mining area and has mining permit and is zoned mining, and the area around it will be zoned mining, plus some buffer open space area that we wanted to put in place to give our neighbors some comfort that there is buffer there. The 3M has met with the College Station Progressive League and the Granite Mountain Neighborhood Association, and both have signed off on the application. 3M has been working with its neighbors in both neighborhoods to address the questions about the applications and various other concerns that the neighbors have, and will continue to do that. 3M's committed to continue to go to the meetings of these neighborhood associations to continue their relationships with them. 3M, joining me here tonight from 3M are Marty Green, who's with 3M, the brand new, as of today, site manager for the 3M plant, Richard Waits, and Jordan Johnson, as you already know. We'll be happy to answer any questions, and hopefully we can address any questions you might have.
Thank you, Ms. Johnston. We do have Director Hendricks, you're recognized, please.
The only thing I was concerned about, this is in Ward 1, but it's seemingly that I was totally ignored, and I resent that by your company. And there were no problems in College Station until the issue arose by another board member. So I'm glad that the residents, they're satisfied, okay?
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for our board members of Ms. Johnson? You turned your microphone on. Go ahead, Director Computers.
I'm real concerned about this. What's the use of the land that you're going to rezone?
It will actually, all of it's going to act as buffer around the plant area that's currently there.
Well, but what happens when 11 members of this board aren't here anymore and you say it's just a buffer? Do you have the permission then to go mine it?
No, we would actually have to go get approval from the ADEQ.
No, I'm not worried about the ADEQ. I'm talking about this board.
In some areas, yes, we would, but 3M has long time ago, decades ago, determined that the minerals in that area are not of a sufficient quality to use in their operations, and have no intention of going to mine in that area as far as blasting and digging and all those things.
That is a little bit like in Texas, where they abandoned oil wells and then the price went to $100 a barrel, and suddenly it was worth going in there and mining again. Well, that's not a great assurance.
Yeah. Well, the grade of the rock is what it is. It's not going to change. So I hope You know, they really had looked at it many, many years ago. And that's why they actually bought the other quarry that they actually do the blasting at, which is several miles away from the plant facility we're talking about. Other than that, I don't know what else to do for it, to other assurances to.
Well,
to
you know,
give
I find it really amazing that we went through probably a 10-year process of looking at mining in this area to protect these two areas. And we worked through the process, and all of a sudden, you come in and say, we're going to take all this land and we're going to change it from residential to mining, but we're not going to mine it.
Well, what I will, let me
I mean,
explain.
and that, I
yeah.
mean, that's just I mean, if you're going to change it, why don't you change it to park?
Yeah. Let me explain what's been going on. Is there is a 3M's been buying the property in this area for a long time. There have been plats in place since the 1910s that have never been built out. No roads, nothing like that. And it is, it's always been on the land use map as mining. It just hasn't been zoned that way.
Well, I think that's what item 10 is to change the land use plan.
Not in the area for the mining, actually. Well, there is some of it being changed for mining, but most of it is already, the land use plan is already already mining. And yeah, if we can see the map, that would be great. See, it's just this bottom area right there that the land use plan is being changed to mining.
The large area at the bottom there, is that?
Yeah. The upper area where we're changing the zoning to mining is above Walters, 3M Road and Walters Road. And that has always, the land use plan has always been mining there in that area. But the zoning hasn't been consistent with it.
Well, I mean, I think that one, you're going to be what you're asking us to do is say, trust me, we're not going to do anything with this land. It's going to be buffer. The rock's no good. But we want to change it to a classification of mining. So you have to skip this body completely if you want to change what you're doing. And you have you're offering no assurance that you're going to do that. I mean, they're your people right there. You represent them. I mean,
and I'm telling you, we're not going to mine it.
What?
And we're not going to mine it. I mean, I don't know what other assurances.
Tom, is that in?
The fact that a current owner says they're not going to mine it, if it's zoned for mining, makes no difference.
That's my thought. I mean, you can say all you want, but what you're doing is, I think this is pardon me, I think it's a great legal trick. You're saying it's poor quality rock. We're not going to do it. We're not going to ever hurt these people. But if we really want to, if something happens, if we can go down and core deeper, or if we have to blast, you're blasting right next to these communities that have been worried about this forever. Mm-hmm. And you're not offering any assurance. Once you have it, once we vote on this, what you have is you have the permission to go to ADQ and say, well, the city of Little Rock said we changed the classification. It's now mining. I mean, that's not fair. I mean, you can't say if you don't want to mine it, reclassify it something else.
Well, our core site is classified mining, and this is all adjacent to it, and that's why we're going
that's
for that.
Great. But all that says to me is you're looking to be able to go to contiguous areas to mine. You're not a rock miner.
I am not a rock miner.
But it makes sense to me that if what you want to, if your idea is we want to take this to protect the area, and then 15 or 20 years from now, we want to have the discussion whether we're going to mine, and we have to come back to this board, I'm fine with that. But the idea that we go from residential low density and industrial park open space to mining is a pretty big jump in what we're doing.
Well, and there's also an open space component to this too.
I agree with you, but
yeah,
it is basically what you're doing is you're taking contiguous areas to your mining and now making it mining, correct?
Yes. But
that is
the mining is not at a quarry, though. The mining is at the rock crushing facility.
Again, I know you can put all the legalese you want on it, but you're mining, you've got an area that is not mining right now, and you want to make it, you change the classification from this to this. And I'm not sure the people in these three communities that fought for 10 or 15 years, the Audubon swap and everything, now all of a sudden they're been told everything's fine. That's not fair. I mean, the people that live down there don't understand that you're mining here, you can go right there, and we're going to give you permission tonight to do this. And I don't think that's fair. If you want to transfer it to open space so you can protect it, and then when all of us are long gone on here, come back and do it, that's fine. But I just don't think that coming in here and saying we're going to take all this different land and take all this hodgepodge thing, but the essence is you've got mining, you've got land that's not, in your words, suitable for mining, but suddenly they're contiguous, and the next thing you have to do is go to ADQ. You don't have to come to us at all. We've already zoned it. I mean, that's just not a fair way of doing things.
Director Compiers, did you want to continue, or?
Well, I mean,
I've got other people who want to comment too.
I may come back, yeah.
Okay.
I'll reserve.
Director Hendricks, you're recognized, please.
What?
You're next, please.
I concur with Dean, and I'm willing to withdraw this item.
Well, that's not before us. It's either, it's up to us for a vote unless they elect to withdraw it, but.
Unless
that hadn't happened yet.
Who elects to withdraw?
Well, the applicant would have to do that.
Oh.
Director Wyrick, you're recognized, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I just had a little question. What value is this changing to mining to the 3M company?
Well, right now,
I mean, you said something about that it was close to the core mining, but explain to me why you think it's so important to change it to mining at this point.
Well, what we're doing is we've been putting these parcels together forever, and we're trying to put them into one tax parcel that's zoned consistent with each other, and part of it's doing the abandonment, part of it's doing the land use plan amendment, and then doing the zoning. And it's really about internal 3M streamlining.
So it's about paper and taxes and that kind of thing. It has nothing to do with the mining, as you're saying.
Yes.
As Dean's concerned about. And I'm like Dean, I'm kind of concerned too. It's like if you change it to mining, then you can do whatever you want to do, short of getting permits from ADQ and whatever else you said. So it's really just paperwork for you all.
Yes.
Okay. That's what I need to know. Thank you.
Director Fortson.
Ms. Johnson, picking up on Director Wyrick's questions, you say the main purpose of this is to expedite your paperwork for tax filings, et cetera.
Yes.
And the area you're talking about is what's red cross-hatched in this map.
No, actually, that's just with the land use plan. Do we have the zoning?
It's in the zoning. It's the
the zoning, really.
You have a zoning map.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So this is the area that would be rezoned.
Okay, orient me. This is Interstate 440. So, or how far south from the Little Rock Municipal Airport are you talking about?
I do not know the exact mileage. It's not very far though. It's the plant itself is, you can see down there where it says Walters Road, and
that's where your plant is.
That's where the plant is, and all this other area is trees, bushes, grass. It's not been developed.
Is Mr. Collins, could I ask Mr. Collins a question?
Sure.
Jamie, re-educate me. What is permissible today under the present zoning in these areas that are crosshatched that are proposed to be changed?
Well, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the board, Director Fortson, it varies. There's R2 zoning, on there. There's commercial zoning. There's a couple, as you see on your map, C3 zoning. So that's a wide variety of commercial uses, that's allowed in there. And there is also some open space that's already there, that's already in place, for that area.
So there are various, if I understand you correctly, there are various zoning levels for these various pieces of property. It's not all uniform.
Yes, sir, that is correct. It's not uniform. And that was because of the plat that Ms.
Now, under the change they're proposing, are you saying, or do I understand properly, that all of a sudden, all of these areas, not all of a sudden, but if we approve this, all of these areas would then be lumped together under a single zoning rather than different types of zoning?
Yes, that's correct. It would be lumped together underneath two primary zonings, which would be the mining and then the open space zoning.
So they could all be lumped together, I suppose, as industrial, or as Dr. Kapura said, parkland. The zoning change, if I state my question properly, the zoning change for uniformity could go in lots of directions. It does not have to necessarily go in one direction, but they're doing that in order to conform with the surrounding areas that are white next to the crosshatch, which are presently zoned mining. Is that what the situation is?
That's correct. The current use of the property is mining, and then also to align with the current land use plan, which is mining.
And we're looking at land use at the same time we're looking at zoning and affecting these two ordinances.
That is correct. That's why they're tied together. You need to try to line one up with the other, and also that's why the plats are there, to abandon those paper plats that never was developed.
Which is item 17, yeah.
Which is, yeah.
Which, well, Jamie, so this proposes to put C3 immediately adjacent to mining. Is that right?
Which C3 are you looking
well,
at?
I'm looking at the C3 over here.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately adjacent to what's being proposed to be mining.
That's correct.
That seems to be incongruous to be having C3 next to a mining operation. That's what I'm looking at. I mean, I'm just looking at. I mean, you've got that's open space, and then there's a smaller part that's going to be from open space to mining.
Actually, we changed that part of the application. That's all open space there.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm looking more at track 5 and adjacent, and track 5 and its adjacency to the C3 to the southwest of it. Anyway, Director Hendricks, you're recognized.
I just wanted to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, let her finish. No, let Dean go. Let him finish.
I thought you were done. Go ahead, Director Hendricks.
No, that's my friend. Let him finish. You want me to go ahead? Okay, the only thing that I wanted to remind the board of is that I attended the meetings at College Station, and that group of people that's in close proximity to where this is to take place, they were really upset. And it's terrible to say that we had to bring it back today, but I agree with Dean Campiris.
Okay. Director Fortson, I'm sorry, you can continue now.
That's okay. I'd like to ask Ms. Johnson a couple of other questions. So, trying to understand how 3M deals with all this, you're filing annually, making tax payments on each of these separate parcels, but they are, this is creating a lot more work that you would say by having one.
Just keeping up with, I think there's well over 50, I mean, do you know how many parcels there are in that area alone? So the platting, getting rid of the platting is the first thing to be able to help do that, so. Yeah.
Well, would it accomplish all of the same purposes you're talking about if it were all being zoned, you'd change those that are different things right now, make it all one typical like R2 or one industrial? Does it have to be mining, in other words?
Well, it's part of the, if we make it part of that tract, I mean, it seems like it should be consistent with what's in the middle, which is the plant, which is zoned mining and needs to be zoned mining.
Couldn't it be open space?
That's all for now.
Director Adcock, you recognize, please.
Everything except 5 is just open space, right? So 5 is the only thing you're asking for mining?
Yes, ma'am.
Because we've taken 4 out of it.
Yeah.
And that was taken out at College Station, correct?
Yes. Wait, now, there may be one more tract at the bottom, and yes, that was taken out at College Station.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not seeing tract 1.
Where is track 1?
Yeah. Oh,
okay.
Up there. It is, okay.
Okay, it's open space. So the only thing that you're asking money for is track 5?
Correct.
And how many acres is track 5?
I would have to look it up. It's
approximately
67.54 acres.
Okay.
Thank you.
And do you own the C3 down here on the left?
I believe so. I can confirm that, though.
And if you own it, why is it not included in all this?
Well, in the area that is not, you see there's a kind of a cutout there that has 2 or 3 tracks of C3 in there.
You got the one up on the right, the one to the left, and one in the middle.
There are a couple of tracks in that area that are owned by somebody other than 3M, and we're not going to abandon that part of the plat, and we set it up so they still have access, on paper at least, because there's no roads actually built in there, but to their locations, but nothing is built there. So.
How big is that C3 that you own, and how big are those 2 little C3s?
I cannot answer that question off the top of my head. I would have to go look back at the map and pull out the survey.
Okay. Thank you.
Director Wright, you're recognized.
Yes, ma'am. In the R2, in the track 5 where it says R2, what is there currently?
Nothing.
Okay.
Trees.
And the closest house is in the Jet Court,
Yes.
Albright Circle?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, that concludes questions from the board at this point in time. Mr. Green, did you wish to speak?
I'd like to have Jordan.
Mr. Johnson? Okay.
Well, and I appreciate your time and appreciate your questions, Dr. Compuris. I think there's some valid concerns. I just want to remind the mayor and vice mayor, members of the board, that this has been a long process. We've been going through months. In fact, 3M's been acquiring this property for almost 30-something years now. And it is, I know, no matter what it seems, it is a paperwork component. It is clerical. That's the necessity of it. And I appreciate those of y'all who attended the multiple community meetings that we've been working through, and Ms. Gloria, who's here, and others. If you have any questions for me, I know we've worked out the mowing issues that have been before you on this. I know we've had this before. I think this is our 4th time before you. And I know the staff has been helpful and seem to be okay with the zoning. But I'd welcome any questions additionally that you may have for me.
Jordan, concerning the paperwork issue, item 17 abandons those rights-of-way and those plats that have never been used. That would certainly go a long way toward facilitating whatever paperwork issue there is, would it not?
That is correct.
Okay. Director Compuris, you're recognized.
Well, Jordan, we're going to have to disagree on this. I find it amazing that if this is a paperwork issue, that you propose to us that you take the most severe classification you can pick for this, and then have your company or your clients say they're never going to mine this. If that were really true, then they could do it open space. They can do it light industrial. If all they're doing is, I mean, how big is 3M? As a company?
Bigger than Little Rock.
Exactly. And they've got multiple accountants that are all they do is pay taxes on little tracts of land all over the United States. And the idea that we're doing this at this classification to make it easier to do tax work and to pay taxes is malarkey, in my opinion.
Well,
I think that if that's the reason we're going to rezone things, then we need to start really looking at what we're doing up here. We're giving this company permission to bypass this group forever if they want to mine. And that's just the bottom line. You can say anything you want. You can say we got more open spaces. Well, you got open spaces in here where you can't mine. You got roads next to the river. I mean, if you look at it, it's a bait switch thing. What they want is a mining tract here that will hurt these two communities forever. And the people in these communities, I don't think, understand the potential of what can happen to them. And after having spent so long looking at this, I respect the integrity of these communities and what they're trying to do. And if you want to come back sometime and say we're going to make this all open space, that'd be great. Then you can have it all. You can take care of your tax work. You can do anything you want to do. But why you want to come in here and say we want to give the highest classification that we can to an area that you say you're never going to do anything makes zero sense to me, unless really what you plan to do is when the 11 of us are gone, you come back and say we already got the classification. That board back there, and 2017 approved it, and we're going to move on with life.
I don't think people think like that, but
Jordan.
I mean, I just know, but I respect your opinion. I mean, the other thing, 3M has been in the community since 1946, I believe.
And I'm not arguing about that.
And they aren't asking to pull a fast one over anybody, and they haven't yet, and they aren't going to.
Then if that's all they want to do, then bring it back as something that's a less intense zoning that will protect the community.
Well, what about talking with, maybe referring with the city attorney and seeing what assurances that could be made that way? I mean,
I'm Tom. I mean, but all I'm saying is that what you're saying to me is we're going from art residential to mining like that, and once it's done, it's done. Is that right? Not right, Tom?
Pretty much. I mean, the one word I would give to the board is fracking, and we've seen what that's done to the world. I mean, if the purpose of this is to make it easier for the tax bills and the paperwork, as they say, then going to something like open space would do that. You can't ask them to do that, but on the other hand, if you vote this down, they can't do anything for a year.
I know. But that fracking is exactly the example I was saying. This land is useless until they find a use that's good for it, and once they do, we have lost any ability to control this area we've ever had. Zero, none, nada. And if streamlining 3M's accounting department in Little Rock, Arkansas is the only reason we're doing this, then 3M's it must be a well-run company if this is the only cog in the thing that's not working very well.
Okay, Director Hines.
Tom, I have a question. So if, as Jordan suggested, if they were to suggest, will we not have to send that back to the Planning Commission for that kind of material change?
Well, it's material change, and yes, you can send it back to the Planning Commission, but you can't ask them to change it.
Okay. No, I'm not asking. Mr. Johnson brought it up, so but that's the only question. I just want to know where we're at.
Matt, can I ask a procedural question?
Sure, but he's the mayor.
The mayor, I wasn't sure. Sorry. Would it be possible if tonight we went ahead and voted on the abandonment and the land use plan, and we deferred Tract 5 on the zoning, but voted on the rest of the zoning? Would that be possible, or can you do that?
No, it's not possible.
Not possible. Okay. Is it possible to defer just the zoning and vote on the other two?
Well, I mean, to be consistent, you deal with the land use plan and the zoning collectively.
Okay.
Now, you could vote independently on the abandonment of the plat.
Okay. Could we go ahead
But-
and do
but
that?
the- But,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, I mean, right now, it would take a motion to defer, and I'm not sure whether anybody wishes to do that or not, so. I mean, I'm not suggesting it, I'm just saying this is up for a vote, up or down.
Right.
And then we'll go on to item 17.
Okay.
Days.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, okay,
we
I
haven't
mean, there's a
voted on it
motion
yet, so-
and a second,
Can that be the first meeting in September then?
Yes.
and it's being deferred for what purpose?
To allow, I'm a little
I mean,
bewildered here
it's-
as we went into this
It either has
today.
to be sent back to the planning commission at the election of the applicant for some other type of zoning analysis, or we're going to be back here whenever it is with the same questions that we're talking about tonight.
Well, and I guess that's what, I'm a little confused in that walking into this boardroom tonight, I didn't realize we had as big an issue with this as we did once the neighborhood signed on to it. So,
May I make a suggestion?
yes, Tom, please.
Why don't you defer the matter for 2 weeks to see if 3M wishes to pursue this position? If it does not, then we can let it go back and work it out that way. And if it needs to be sent back to the planning commission, we can do it at that time. Director Hendricks, I was saying, defer it till the next meeting to see what position 3M wishes to take. If 3M, having heard the board tonight, suggests that they want this to be open space, for example, instead of mining, and I'm just giving an example, then they will report that to us, and we can get this back as quickly as possible to the planning commission and back to the board.
I'll withdraw my first motion and go with the motion you just made, Tom.
It's actually your motion because I can't make it.
It's my motion, but
I think
what
it
you
was
said, Tom.
It was a motion to defer for
First.
2 weeks.
To allow them to.
There was a withdrawal of the initial motion. There's a motion to withdraw for 2 weeks. Is there a second? There's a second, okay. Discussion on the motion. Anybody want to discuss the motion to defer?
You can.
Director
but-
Richardson.
Discuss it for, what's the purpose of the deferral?
I guess it's to
if
give
the-
the applicant an opportunity to see whether they wish to withdraw this and send it back to the planning commission or not.
No, that's the motion I made, is to give them opportunity to consider what they want to do, and I think that's what they've expressed.
Yes. That's correct.
And that was based on what Tom just mentioned, because that wasn't the same, correct? I mean, the first one you had was a little bit different.
First one was
That's
just
how you do
a
it.
30-day deferral to allow them to figure out what they want to do. If we can get it done in 2 weeks, then that's fine. That put it under a shorter time frame for them.
I understand now.
And they've expressed, and that comes about because they just expressed to us a reasonableness to defer this to see if they can come up with a solution or take it back to planning commission to redraw it.
Director Hendricks, do you wish to comment on the motion to defer?
I'll speak for it, that's fine. She's
Director
okay with
Hancock,
that.
do you wish to speak to the motion to defer?
I was for the second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to defer for 2 weeks. All in favor indicate on items 10 and 11. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. The items defer for 2 weeks, and then if you will visit with your client, Ms. Johnston, and let us know about that issue. Now, we can, we're going to move on to that in just a second. So now we have item 17. Let me ask a question about, to the applicant. We have not had the 3 readings on this ordinance yet and opened up the public hearing. Do you wish for us to try and attempt to this issue now, or do you want to wait for 2 weeks?
Do you want to go forward with this, or? We would like to wait for 2 weeks on this also, if possible.
Okay, is there a motion to defer this?
You don't really even need it. It's been deferred at the applicant's request.
Pardon?
It's deferred for 2 weeks at the applicant's request.
All right. This is a public hearing, and so there's a notice requirement on this.
Yeah, we have to do notice.
So you're going to have to republish notice relative to the public hearing in 2 weeks.
Okay. Thank you all for listening to us tonight. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Okay, that concludes the items on our agenda. A couple of things to mention before everybody leaves. First of all, a press release was issued today, which is very exciting for the city. Our Little Rock Workforce Development Board received a $1.2 million grant from the Department of Labor to do intensive felony reentry services for 150 people that will be released from the prison or are currently on parole or probation, getting them in a position to be able to take a job, hold a job, and return to productive work in our community. These things don't get the attention that some of the other kinds of issues about crime and law enforcement do, and I hope that we will make sure that the public hears this loud and clear, that the city is doing lots of different things in lots of different categories for individuals to try and not only provide jobs and opportunity, but to return safety to our streets. Second issue, and this is for the board, I've been working on an ordinance dealing with the installation of video surveillance systems, and I've got a draft, but I'm going to try and release it next week to all of you. But I want to give you a couple ideas and I want your feedback, okay? Because I've done some research on the volume that's involved here. I want you to know we have 22 event centers. We've got 29 private clubs. We have 100 convenience stores. We've got 7 gun dealers. We've got restaurants that have bars in them. We have 255. And we have 569 type businesses that have liquor permits, which would include that group as well. That obviously includes other kinds of businesses. And then there's the whole issue of apartments, and I'm not necessarily suggesting that or not, but certainly we've had a couple of instances where video surveillance would be very helpful on some of these homicides if there was surveillance. We've got 162 apartments that have 50 or more units, and we have 202 apartments that have 24 or more units. So I'm not trying to presume anything here, but I would like your feedback, particularly as it relates to these restaurant, bars, and apartments. I think the other ones are pretty clear. We want to make sure they have that kind of that type of assistance for our police department. So with that said, there are other board members that wish to speak. The first one is Director Adcock. Go ahead, Director Adcock.
It's on another subject.
That's fine. Go ahead.
Okay. I want the public to know that the Little Rock Animal Village had found homes for 375 animals in the month of July. Wow. And it's the most animals we have ever done in 1 month. In fact, 15 years ago, we did 375 in the whole year. So we are very proud of the staff and Mr. Rourke at the Little Rock Animal Village for all the homes we've found. Dallas, Texas now has 50 cats, and Idaho has 40 cats that we've shared. And we've shared dogs with several of the other states and everything. So we've got overpopulation, but thank goodness other states are taking them and finding homes. So we did 375. So if you get a chance, tell the village how proud we are of them. Thank you.
Oh,
and we're having a towel and blanket drive, and you can take them to the Heights Fire Station, the fire station on South University, the fire station on Shackelford, and we will get them from there. Thank you.
When does that start?
We've been doing it this week, and we are doing very well with towels and blankets and quilts. So please, if you have some extra, please share with the animals.
And thanks to the volunteers. We got a great group of volunteers out there. Director Hendricks, you're next, please.
My question is for Mr. Moore. I always have to pet him. Mr. Moore, could you please, well, can you recall way back in '94 when I was on the board, there were certain departments where board members were assigned to sort of work in close proximity with those employees. And the reason why I'm asking you that is that I think you've heard, and I found out that the email for you has changed to Bruce instead of, and that's why all of my emails have been coming back. And I didn't find that out until today from Laura. But what I want to ask you, with the cutting of weed lots, And I'm sure Sarah told you that I called her. We need to talk, Bruce. These people are cutting lots and months have passed before they are even paid. What kind of business is that? Your staff is not operating. So I need to meet with you. Thank you. That's it.
Director Wyrick, you're recognized, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Moore, I've kind of lost contact with what's going on with the CAP program. And I know we've had some shootings at apartments lately, and I would just like to be brought up to date as to what locations that we have under the CAP program and what treatment that we're doing, you know, what process we're in with them. And then also, I'd like to know what qualifies to get them in the CAP program. Thank you.
Okay, that appears to conclude all the comments and questions the board members have. If there's nothing else, motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed say nay. Or an adjournment. Thank you.